Japanese folk tales. This first story is about a farmer. And this is a Japanese picture book that was sent to me when I was a little girl. It was sent to me right after World War II, so it's very old and starting to fall apart. So this is a story you might have heard in the Russian version, but this is how the children hear it in Japan. The name of the story is The Turnip. Once there was a farmer who grew a wonderful turnip. It was incredibly big, and when the turnip was ripe, he tried to pull it out of the ground. And he tugged, but he couldn't pull it out of the ground. So he decided he needed some help, and he asked the rabbit to help him. And the rabbit said, of course, together I'm sure that we can pull the turnip out of the ground. So the farmer and the rabbit tugged and tugged and tugged, but they couldn't pull the turnip out of the ground. We need some more help. I know, said the rabbit. I will go to the home of the badger. So the rabbit ran to the house of the badger. And here's the badger. Now, a badger is an animal that does appear quite a bit in Japanese folk tales. And the rabbit told the badger about the turnip that they couldn't pull out of the ground. And the badger said he would be glad to help. As a matter of fact, he was so big and strong, he was sure that he could pull it out all by himself. So the badger tried, and he tugged, and he tugged. Could he get it out of the ground? No. So they decided to go back to teamwork. And the farmer and the badger and the rabbit all tugged and pulled at the turnip, but they couldn't get it out of the ground. What are we going to do, said the farmer. Well, said the rabbit, I think we could use some more help. I'm sure the rooster would be glad to help us. So the rabbit ran down the road to the rooster's house. And when he saw the rooster, he said, would you help us pull the farmer's turnip out of the ground? And the rooster said, I'd be glad to. So they went back. And once again, they all worked together, and the farmer, and the badger, and the rabbit, and the rooster tugged and tugged and tugged. Did they pull it out of the ground? No. Phew. What are we going to do now? I know, said the badger. That dog is big and strong. I'm sure if we had the dog help us, we could get it out. Oh, no, said the rooster. I'm afraid of the dog. He will bite me. Oh, don't worry about that, said the farmer. I will take care of the dog. So the rabbit ran to the dog's house. And when he found the dog at home, the dog said, oh, yes, I'd be glad to try and help pull the turnip out of the ground. But when the dog came back, the first thing the dog tried to do was bite the rooster, and the rooster flew up in the air. See, I told you this would happen. And the farmer calmed the dog and said, now listen, we can't have any fighting. We must all work together, because only through teamwork can we get this turnip out of the ground. So at last, the farmer and the badger and the rabbit and the dog and the rooster pulled at the turnip, and they pulled it out of the ground. And it was so big and heavy, it took all of them to carry it home, where they cooked it up, and they all had something to eat. Now, you notice that the farmer is wearing special kinds of pants. What color are those pants? Blue, yes. And see how they have stripes? Well, notice the pants that I'm wearing. They're blue and they have stripes. And these are modern farmer's pants in Japan. So even though you might think that this farmer looks very old-fashioned, he could still look like that in Japan. And today, in Japan, where they work on very small fields, some of the things that they wear would be pants like this, and of course they would wear clogs like this with little socks in them. And they work in the fields in the summer, and it's very hot, but they don't want to get sun on them because they don't want to get suntanned like we do. So they wear these pants, they wear a shirt, they wear an apron, and they wear these to keep the sun off of their hands. Put your finger in here. And then they wear something that isn't going to look the least bit Japanese. They wear these hats. When the women work in the fields, they wear these hats. This almost looks like Little House on the Prairie. So this is, of all things, a Japanese farmer bending over, working in the fields in the summer to take care that he doesn't get sunburned. Now, I have some stories about the sea in Japan. You know that Japan is an island, right? So the sea is very important, fishing. And this first story is called The Happy Hunter and the Good Fisherman. Once there was a prince who was very good looking. And he was a hunter. He was such a good hunter, he was known as the Happy Hunter. And every day he would go up into the mountains of Japan with his bow and arrow, and he could shoot many deer and many pheasants. Now his brother was a fisherman, and he was a very skillful fisherman. He was called the Good Fisherman. One day the Happy Hunter saw his brother, the Good Fisherman, coming up from the ocean, and he said, "Ah, brother, how many fish did you catch today?" "Oh, fish," said the fisherman. "Well, today I caught 20. He wasn't really. He was lying. You know how fishermen like to lie. And Happy Hunter said, "Well, how big were the fish that you caught?" And Good Fisherman said, "Oh, the fish that I caught, they were this big. No, they were this big. They were this big." "Oh, really?" said Happy Hunter. "Well," said Good Fisherman to his brother, "how many deer did you catch?" "Enough," said his brother, Happy Hunter. "You know, I'm getting a little tired of hunting. I'll tell you what let's do. Let's trade places. For a while I will catch fish, and you can go in the mountains and hunt." "All right," said Good Fisherman. "We could try that for a while. Here, I will give you my fish line and my prize fish hook. And I," said Happy Hunter, "will give you my bow and arrow." So they traded places. And Good Fisherman went up into the mountains to hunt, and Happy Hunter sat at the edge of the ocean to fish. And he put the fine, beautiful fish hook on the edge of the fish line, and he threw it into the ocean. And he caught nothing. And he threw it into the ocean all day long. And at the end of the day, he had still caught nothing. And as a matter of fact, the last time that he threw the line into the ocean, when he pulled back the line, he had even lost the fish hook. "Oh, where could that be?" he thought. Just then, down from the mountains came Good Fisherman, and he said, "Well, how many fish have you caught?" "I haven't caught any," said Happy Hunter. "And how many deer have you caught?" "Well," said Good Fisherman, I haven't caught any deer either, but let's trade back. Give me back my fish hook." "Oh," said Happy Hunter, "I'm sad to tell you, I lost it." "You lost my best fish hook," said Good Fisherman. "That can't be. You will have to find it for me. I will keep your bow and arrow. You cannot have them back until you find my fish hook." Well, Happy Hunter looked and looked along the beach. He looked at all the seaweed that was washed in from the ocean, and he could not find the fine fish hook. So he went back home, and he took his prize sword, and he chopped it up into many pieces, and he made 100 fish hooks, put them in a basket, and said to his brother, "Here, I couldn't find that fish hook you gave me, but here are 100 new ones." "No," said Good Fisherman, "I must have back that fish hook. Go look for it." So Happy Hunter went back to the beach, and he looked under every shell and under every rock, and an old man came along the beach, and he said, "Oh, aren't you Happy Hunter?" "Well," He said, that's what they call me, but right now I certainly am not happy. See, I lost my brother's fish hook, and I can't find it anywhere along the beach. I think you are looking in the wrong place, said the old man. I think it is out under the ocean. I think a fish has swallowed it. I will give you a special boat. Get into this boat, and it will take you out to the king of the sea, Rinjin. Ask him. He will help you find your brother's fishhook. Thank you very much. So Happy Hunter got into the boat, and the boat carried him out into the sea. And he came to a distant island, and there, standing on the island, in front of a great palace, was Rinjin, the king of the sea. And Happy Hunter bowed low to him, and he said, perhaps you can help me, O king of the sea. I've lost my brother's fishhook. I'll be glad to help you, said Rinjin. Perhaps one of the creatures of the sea has swallowed it. And he called forth the octopus, and he said to the octopus, summon all of the creatures of the sea. And one by one, they all paraded in front of the king. And the king asked each one if they'd seen the fishhook. And the shark said no, and the swordfish said no, and the cuttlefish said no, and the dolphin said no, and the jellyfish said no, and every single creature said no. What am I going to do now, said Happy Hunter. Wait, said the cuttlefish. I think that the long-nosed butterfly fish did not come. And I saw him yesterday, and he looked very sick indeed. I will go and bring the long-nosed butterfly fish. So the cuttlefish went and brought the butterfly fish before the king of the sea. The butterfly fish didn't look well at all. He said, I can barely talk. I have something stuck in my throat. He must have the fishhook in his throat. I'll get it out for you, said the octopus. So the octopus took one arm and held one side of the fish's mouth, and he took the other arm and held another side of the fish's mouth. And then he took two more arms and reached down into the throat of the fish and pulled out the fishhook. Thank you very much, said Happy Hunter. He took the fishhook, got back in the boat, went back to the edge of the shore, and there was his brother, the good fisherman. He said, here is your fishhook. And now from now on, you fish, and I will take my bow and arrow, and I will hunt. And that is how it was from that day on. Happy Hunter hunted, and good fisherman fished. Now, this last story that I want to tell you is a very traditional Japanese story. When I was talking to some Japanese teachers, some of the stories they asked if I knew, they asked me if I knew the story of Momotaro, the peach boy, and I said yes, I did. And they asked me if I knew the story of Taro Urashima, and I said yes, I did. A long time ago, the edge of the sea, Japan, there was a little village called Urashima, and there was a young boy who lived in that village. Taro Urashima, they called him, boy of Urashima. And even though he was very young, he was one of the best fishermen about. He could catch as many fish as the grown-up fishermen. And one day, when he came back on shore after a day's fishing, he saw a group of children on the beach. They were gathered around something, and Urashima came up and peered into the midst of the crowd, and there on the beach was a giant sea turtle. He had crawled up mistakenly on the shore and was trapped, and the children were surrounding him, and they all had big sticks, and they were all beating the turtle on the back of the shell, and the poor turtle had pulled his head inside the shell to try to get away from the children. And one of the boys grabbed a stick and said, it's my turn now to beat the drum, and he hit the turtle. Now it's my turn, said another boy, and he grabbed away the stick and started to beat the turtle again. Stop, said Urashima. Be careful of that poor turtle. You're hurting him. Don't do that. Ah, It's none of your business. We could do with him what we wanted. We caught him. Wait, said Urashima. I have some money. If I give you all the money I have, will you give me the turtle? Well, we suppose so, said the boys. So Urashima took out his money, and he gave some of the money to each of the children, and they went away, and they left the poor turtle there. Now, said Urashima, I'm going to help you get back to the ocean where you belong. So he guided the turtle down towards the edge of the ocean, and by now the turtle felt safe, and he stuck his head back out from under his shell. And when the waves started to lap around their feet, Urashima picked up the turtle and carried him out until he could swim freely. And the turtle swam away, and Urashima waved goodbye to the turtle. Well, a few days later, Urashima was in his boat fishing. It was a very quiet day. There wasn't a breeze blowing, and the boat hardly moved at all. And as he lay there looking up at the sky, he heard something calling his name. Urashima-san, Urashima-san. He looked out, and there, swimming towards him in the ocean, was the turtle. And the turtle swam up to his boat and said, I want to thank you for saving my life. I don't know what I would have done without you. Well, said Urashima, after this, you stay in the ocean where you belong. Don't come up on the land again. Oh, I won't, said the turtle. And I would like to reward you for helping me. Have you ever heard of the palace of the dragon princess? Well, I've heard of it, said Urashima, but I've never seen it. Well, said the turtle, I am the servant of the dragon princess, Princess Oto, and when she heard how you saved my life, she wanted to meet you. So I would like to take you to her palace. Well, how do I get there, said Urashima. Jump on my back, and I will take you. So Urashima got out of his boat and climbed on the back of the turtle. And the turtle dove under the water. And Urashima found he could look around and see through the beautiful undersea world. And he could breathe just as he could on land. And they went down deeper and deeper past all sorts of fish and sea plants and starfish, and then they came to the underwater palace of the dragon princess. She was standing outside to greet them, and the beautiful princess said to Urashima, thank you for saving the life of my servant. And now I would like to take you on a tour of my palace. So Urashima got off the back of the turtle, and he followed the princess. And she led him from room to room. And each room was more beautiful than the last. There were precious jewels on the walls and lovely colors. And the princess said, now I would like to show you one of my greatest treasures. And she had a large window, and she said, look out the window, and you can see the seasons of the year in Japan. And as they watched, it was spring. And everywhere there were cherry blossoms. And Urashima could smell the scent of the new growing grass. And then as he watched it, it changed and was summer. And he could feel the heat from the earth. And he could watch the gardenias blooming. And he could hear the sound of the insects and the birds. And then as he watched, it became fall. And the leaves turned scarlet and fell off the trees, and the chrysanthemum bloomed. And then the snow fell and covered everything. Oh, that's beautiful, said Urashima. Now, said the princess, I will feed you. And she took him to a banquet hall, where she gave him many wonderful things to eat. Well, Urashima spent day after day with the princess, and each day she would take him to a new room where there were new things to see, new games to play, and he had a wonderful time. But suddenly he remembered, his parents. And he said to the princess, I haven't seen my parents for a long, long time. I think I should go home and visit them. Oh, no, said the princess, stay here with me. Aren't you happy? Of course I'm happy, said Urashima, but I want to see my parents again. Very well, said the princess, but I will give you a special gift. And she went away. When she came back, she had a red lacquered box tied up with ribbon. And she said, this is a special gift to you. Keep it with you the entire time that you are in your parents' village. But never, never open the box. And remember what I tell you. I won't forget, said Urashima. And now the turtle will take you back to your village. So he stepped outside the palace and the turtle appeared again. And Urashima climbed on the back of the turtle holding the red lacquered box in one arm. And he waved goodbye to the princess. And the turtle went up, up, up to the surface of the ocean and then back to the beach outside the village of Urashima's house. On the beach, Urashima waved to the turtle. Sayonara, turtle chap. I will never forget you, and I will see you soon to take me back to the princess. And the turtle said, Sayonara, Urashima-sama. I will see you again. Urashima was all by himself on the beach. He walked back to his village. But as he looked up this street, down that street, he didn't recognize anything. Everything looked strange and different. He looked at the face of each person as they passed by, but he recognized no one. And at last he found his house. But no one lived there. It was deserted. And it was falling down. He saw an old woman walking down the street and he said, Grandmother, tell me, where are the Urashimas who live here? What? She said. Urashima? I never heard of them. Surely you must have heard of the house of Urashima. It's very well known. Wait. Wait, she said. An old woman, 80 years old, but I remember when I was a little girl, I heard a story of the Urashimas. And they had a boy. And it was said that the boy was climbed on the back of a turtle, was carried out to sea, where he is held prisoner in the palace of the dragon princess. Ha! That story must have happened 300 years ago. 300 years ago? How can that be? And Urashima ran down to the beach, calling for the turtle to take him back to the palace. But the turtle did not appear. What shall I do? Said Urashima. What can I do? And then he looked and he found the red lacquered box that the princess had given him. This was a gift to me, he said. It must be to help me. And if I ever needed help, it is now. So now I will open the box. And he untied the ribbons. And he lifted the lid. And from out of the box came a purple mist. And Urashima felt his face, his smooth cheeks turning into a million wrinkles. And his eyesight faded. He was practically blind, and his hair was long and white, and his back was bent over. Oh, I should not have opened the box. My youth was imprisoned within that box. And now I can never return to the dragon princess. And he got smaller and smaller and withered away and died. And that's the story of Urashima. And this is a fan that the Japanese teachers gave me. And I told them that every time on my TV show that I told Japanese stories, I would use the fan that they had given me.